Okay, so today we're going to talk about actual meal prepping. So I'm going to walk you through the process of how I decide what to prep first, and then I'll kind of show you a little bit later in another video about how I would prep things. So, first off, I go through my entire day of meals, my breakfast, lunch, snacks, dinner, and I'm going to think about, what are the things that would be easier to do if I made it ahead of time. The first thing, breakfast, okay. Fresh fruit. It's a lot easier to grab and go with your fresh fruit if you pre-wash it and just store it in the fridge. Berries, a good way to store it is you put a paper towel underneath it, and that'll help absorb some of the liquid and make it a little bit easier for you to do. So I'm going to write down wash fresh fruit. And if I got strawberries, then strawberries I usually chop the tops of them off and I put them in a container with a paper towel. And so wash fresh fruit / chop if it's applicable, or slice, whatever you want to call it. Breakfast, I know that's going to be handy to have that done, so I can just store it in a container, put it next to whatever I want to eat, and have it ready to go. The next thing, I have oatmeal on my list as part of my meals for. Sorry, that wasn't comfortable. Oatmeal is part of my list for a breakfast option. I'm going to say it's probably going to be a breakfast option for myself and my whole family for, say, 3 or 4 days of the week, just because it's quick and easy. So I'm just going to make a note here to make oatmeal in a jar. All you do with that is you literally put your oatmeal in a jar, and then you put twice as much liquid in that big mason jar, and then you put in, say, cinnamon, a little bit of maple syrup, and shake it up and stick it in the fridge. That's it. I put almond milk in mine, but you can put regular milk or coconut milk or whatever you want to put in. So I'm writing down oatmeal in a jar as something that I want to prep. I'm making a list here of what I'm going to prepare ahead of time. Okay, so lunches. Grilled chicken with the kale salad or leftovers. So I don't really have a whole lot to do for lunch. We're going to start with leftovers for the first couple days. So for Monday, I'm planning to do that cauliflower fried rice. So I'm going to make a note next to that. I'm going to make a note of 6 servings so that there's enough for me and my husband to have for 2 days of lunches. That's really all I need to put right there. For lunch, that's what I'm noting. Fresh fruit and almonds or chocolate spinach muffin or my Shakeology for my snacks. I don't need to do anything to prep those. Those are pretty simple. If I just wash my fruit ahead of time, piece of cake. Okay, so now I'm on to dinners. Dinner, honestly, is when prepping can make the biggest difference, and it can be super helpful. The first thing I think about is I look through and I look for where do I have veggies? Because if I have veggies there, I'm going to want to put down that I want to pre-wash and prepare my veggies. So I'm just going to put wash, veggies, and store. Now, by that, I mean if I get asparagus, then I'm going to chop the ends off and cut it in half and put it in a Ziploc baggie with a paper towel. And then it's ready for me to just throw onto a cookie sheet and roast the asparagus, okay? So I'm just going to wash the veggies and store them. Sometimes, depending on what I'm making, I might actually store everything all together. And so, that would look like if I was doing the cauliflower fried rice, say, in the crock pot. I've never made that before, so I don't know if that's even possible. But if I'm making something in the crock pot, then I would put it all together in a bag, and then it's all ready to go and just plop in the crock pot, and then it's ready. And, of course, with a crock pot meal, you have to add in the seasonings, you have to add in those things, but that's super simple. That's doable, that's the easy part. The hard part of prepping for a meal is washing, chopping, and preparing whatever you have to have prepared for that meal. Okay, so chili lime salmon, I'm just going to have to remember to thaw the salmon, so I'm going to make a note next to Monday, thaw salmon, because then Monday night I'll remember to pull it out and thaw it for the next day. I could also do that on Tuesday morning. Doesn't really make a difference. Fish kind of is good at thawing pretty quick. I see on Tuesday that I'm having brown rice, so I'm thinking ahead. I'm thinking, okay, do I want to have to cook the brown rice that time, or do I want to cook it ahead of time? In this case, I'm just going to cook it on Tuesday night, so I'm not going to make a note about cooking the brown rice ahead of time because I know I'm going to cook it. Grilled chicken with the kale salad. The biggest thing I'm going to need to do for that one is marinate my chicken, so I'm going to make a note in my prep to-do list. Marinate chicken and make dressing. So those are my to-dos as far as prep goes for that. So make dressing. You can also have a store-bought dressing. If you're going to get a store-bought dressing, then I suggest the Newman's Own, or anything with the least amount of ingredients. So anything organic. You don't want anything with soy or added sugar. There's some yogurt dressings that are really good. I can't remember what it's called, but there's a lot of different dressing options that can be healthier than, say, just your average ranch. Okay, so that's for my Wednesday night, the grilled chicken with the dressing. Then I know the next day is that beef stew. So I'm going to want to have my beef chopped, all my veggies and things just in a Ziploc bag and ready to go. They can marinate over the course of a day or two, and then I can just plop them in the crock pot, add the liquid I need to when I need it, and cook it for, however much time the recipe says. So I'm looking at the recipes for things that I need to know ahead of time. Like, I just check through those recipes, make sure that I'm on track. So I'm going to have chopped my fresh, the squash and veggies for the stew, and that's it. Okay. If I'm going to do veggie tacos, then I'm going to have my black beans and rice cooked ahead of time. So in that case, then I would make a note next to Tuesday when I'm having brown rice with the salmon. I'll make a note here that says, like, make enough for veggie tacos. Okay, so just make enough for veggie tacos so that I have that. Hamburgers, super simple to prep. Leftovers, there might be leftovers, and so if that's the case, then we'll have leftovers on that night. I guess my point with prepping is that if you make a list of the things you need to do for prepping, it looks a lot less overwhelming than you think. So really, this is all I need to do for prep. I have a little to-do list here on the side. If you've printed out this, then great. But my to-do list just has, I can't flip it around. It just has a list of the things that I'm going to do to prep. So that way I know, like, okay, I can do this now. I should do this way ahead of time, or I can do this the night before. Like, some of the things I'm not going to do all of them like the week before, because that would just be silly, and I don't need to do that. If you need to do that, it's doable, and your stuff will stay good fine, like, throughout the week. The point is that you're just thinking ahead, and you're thinking of what you have going on that week in your schedule, so that prepping for the food is not as overwhelming, and you don't sit there and go like, oh my gosh, I only have an hour, and then we have to do something, and I didn't make my dinner ahead of time, or make the things ready so that dinner can cook fast. So just be thinking ahead, and just start thinking about your food in the terms of the way the rest of your day works too. Because if you think about pulling the whole day together and not just separating food out, then it's a lot easier to incorporate the time that you need to prepare for those meals, okay? So I hope that was helpful. After I go grocery shopping, I will show you guys what I got for my grocery shopping, and then I'll show you guys how I would prep some of those things so that I can give you an idea of what it looks like and about how much time it takes. Okay?